There are things that make the headlines, and then there are things you hear around the hallway in Santa Clara. Veteran praise, a contract left on the table, practice reps people are watching closely, market rumors, a ranking that shifts the respect level, and an internal saga that could turn into a real money fight. That is the vibe today. The 49ers are not just putting a roster together, they are trying to protect Brock Purdy, get this offense back under control, and clean up the noise before it follows them into the season. Stay with me on this inside read, hit that like button, because every little detail here tells us something about the pressure building in San Francisco. The first story has that behind-the-scenes feel that makes the rest of the league stop for a second, because Mike Evans is not coming to San Francisco as just another big name near the final stretch of his career. He turned down a bigger offer from the Buccaneers and chose the 49ers for less money. To me, that says two things at the same time. He still wants to play in games that matter, and somebody in Santa Clara sold him on the vision of what this offense can become with him on the field. And the part a lot of outsiders are going to try to downplay is this: Evans does not need to prove he belongs among the greats at the position. The resume already speaks for itself. 11 straight seasons with over 1,000 receiving yards to start his career. That is ridiculous consistency, rare consistency, almost stubborn consistency. The real question is not legacy. The question is 2026, his body, his timing, the fit, and how much of that version can still show up when defenses tighten up in the red zone. His 2025 season was limited to 8 games because of hamstring and clavicle injuries, plus a concussion. So yes, the medical side matters. The workload plan matters too. But the signal coming from inside the building does not sound cold at all. George Kittle described Evans as smart, reliable, a guy who catches everything, runs great routes, and competes with effort. Kyle Juszczyk went even stronger, saying Evans looked unguardable during offseason work. Faithful, that is not outside noise. That is experienced players recognizing another experienced player. And in Kyle Shanahan's offense, that detail can change the entire map. Brock Purdy gets a perimeter target who understands leverage, body control, tight windows, and timing. This is not just about speed, it is about presence. It is the kind of receiver who can turn a contested throw into a first down, force a corner to play with respect, and pull safety attention just because of his reputation. Bleacher Report listed Evans among the veteran additions worth watching in training camp, and honestly, that makes sense. Camp will show whether the timing with Purdy clicks quickly or needs time to grow. But the inside read is already alive. If Evans is healthy, if Kittle is coming back right, if McCaffrey is available, and if this receiver room really is as deep as people inside the team seem to believe, San Francisco can go from a top 10 offense into something way more dangerous. Not pretty on paper, dangerous for real. Then the spotlight moves away from the perimeter, and the dirty part of football steps in. The part that decides whether the offensive plan breathes or suffocates. The name on the radar is Mekhi Becton. And when a player that big is sitting on the market, the first instinct is to stare at the height, the weight, and the raw power. But the real question in Santa Clara is not whether he looks impressive getting off the bus. The real question is whether he can help protect Brock Purdy inside without becoming another gamble that asks for too much patience. Becton is literally massive. Former Eagles and Chargers lineman, 6'7", over 360 pounds, the kind of body type that changes the geometry of an offensive line. But nobody inside a serious building looks at that and ignores the rest of the story. The injury history is there. The inconsistency is there too. This is the kind of player who forces a front office to separate fascination from usefulness. If you sign him just because of the size, you miss the point. If you see a specific role, a controlled contract, real competition, and a clear plan, then the conversation becomes a lot more interesting. And the 49ers have a real reason to look. This team is not panicking on the offensive line, but it also cannot pretend the interior protection is already solved for January. Guard is one of those positions that only becomes a national story when everything starts going wrong. When the pocket breaks from the middle, Purdy loses room to step up, Shanahan loses part of the play-action design, the run game hits a wall before it finds rhythm, and suddenly an offense loaded with talent starts playing rushed. What makes Becton more intriguing is his 2024 season in Philadelphia. He had a real career rebirth there, fitting into a dominant line, helping power a strong rushing attack, and showing that in the right environment, he can still be a useful piece. That matters. This is not just dreaming about old potential. It is remembering that he recently worked inside a high-level structure. For San Francisco, the path makes sense as a behind-the-scenes move, not some desperate headline grab. Bring Becton in to compete for interior snaps, add real physical weight to the group, and serve as insurance if the guard spot does not settle down in camp. No long deal, no automatic starting promise, no turning a market opportunity into an obligation. But if the price is low and the body is ready, John Lynch has to at least make the call. A contender cannot lose a season because of a hole in the middle of the protection. And when there is a chance to add size, experience, and aggression to a line that has to support Purdy and McCaffrey, you do not ignore it. You investigate it. You measure it. And if the medical room and the coaches sign off, you put that name in the competition and let the field decide. Then the conversation lands on the quarterback, because everything we have talked about comes back to Brock Purdy. Evans only becomes a real advantage if Purdy uses that weapon the right way. Becton only enters the radar because protecting Purdy inside is a priority. So when Pro Football Focus ranks Purdy as the number 10 starting quarterback in the NFL heading into the 2026 season, that is not just a nice ranking to post online. It is accountability dressed up as recognition. The context is what makes it interesting. Purdy played only 9 games last season because of a turf toe injury, and he still landed in the top 10. PFF pointed out that when he was on the field, he was highly efficient, an 85.4 overall grade, 6th among quarterbacks, a 65.8 passing grade under pressure, 3rd in the league, and a 9.0% pressure to sack rate, the best in the NFL in 2025. That number says a lot about the player. Purdy is not just the system guy. He processes fast, gets the ball out before the pocket fully collapses, and avoids turning pressure into disaster. But this is where emotional fandom has to meet grown-up analysis. Is the ranking fair? Yes. You can defend it pretty easily. He landed ahead of names like Trevor Lawrence, Jalen Hurts, Sam Darnold, and Caleb Williams, and I would not put any of them above him right now based on what Purdy gives this offense. Even in a shortened season, he showed that control in several games, the kind that reminded people of the stretch when he entered the MVP conversation. The hard part comes right after the praise. Now he has to play like a top 10 quarterback for a full season. Not because of headlines, because of the standard. The return of a true reference point like Mike Evans changes the level of excuses available. If Evans is healthy, if Kittle and McCaffrey are on the field, if Shanahan has enough depth to move pieces around, Purdy will have the structure to prove this respect was not statistical charity. And I want to put this one to the community. Do you think number 10 is the right spot for Purdy? Or is the league still holding back respect because he does not have the loud profile of the more media-friendly quarterbacks? My read is simple. Purdy does not need to win the internet. He needs to win Sundays. And if he stays healthy with this group around him, that top 10 conversation could start feeling small really fast. Then comes the roughest part of the script, because Brandon Aiyuk is no longer just a name on the depth chart. He has become a case of internal governance. When a talented, expensive player who is still under contract spends months taking shots at his own team on social media, while the relationship is already broken behind the scenes, this is no longer just an offensive fit conversation. It becomes a test of authority for the franchise. The story has been heavy since that 4-year extension signed in 2024, worth $120 million. At the time, San Francisco still believed it could protect the talent, manage the tension, and keep a high-level receiver inside the project. But then came the ACL and MCL injuries, the full missed 2025 season, and then the point that changed the board. Aiyuk reportedly failed to fulfill terms tied to his rehab process, and the 49ers voided the future guarantees in his contract. Matt Mayoko of NBC Sports Bay Area brought a read that is too strong to ignore. According to him, there were people inside the organization 2 years ago who already had doubts about where Aiyuk's head was, and even whether he wanted to keep playing football. That is a heavy sentence. That is not angry fan analysis after a loss. That is negotiation background. That is internal perception. That is the kind of information that helps explain why the relationship felt cracked even before it became a public saga. And the 49ers also have to own their part of the mistake. If the signs were already there during negotiations and the big contract still got done, then the risk was miscalculated. Mayoko called it a mistake and even mentioned immediate buyer's remorse from the franchise side. You can defend the front office on plenty of things, but there is no need to pretend every decision was perfect. Championship teams make mistakes too. The difference is how they correct them. But based on the actions described, Aiyuk opened a massive door for San Francisco. By failing to meet the terms of the contract, he reportedly gave the 49ers a chance to cut guarantees and possibly pursue part of the money already paid. Mayoko put that range between $13.8 million and $18.4 million, depending on how the signing bonus and future service years are calculated. That is real money. That changes flexibility, that changes planning, and at this point, defending the franchise means being firm. Nobody is erasing what Aiyuk was when he was right. He had talent, impact, and big moments. But the jersey carries weight too. If the player does not report, does not meet obligations, and uses social media to wear down his own team, San Francisco cannot act like an emotional hostage. The 49ers need to close this saga with legal coldness and competitive clarity. A contender cannot carry noise like it is tradition. Noise gets handled. The roster moves on. In the end, these four stories tell the same thing from different angles. The 49ers are trying to separate opportunity from distraction. Evans is the impact bet. Becton would be the physical, low-cost test to protect the middle of the offense. Purdy is getting respect, but now the pressure gets bigger. And Aiyuk is the reminder that talent without alignment can become dead weight. Santa Clara needs to move with a clear head, because the window does not wait for anyone to get comfortable again. The faithful know the standard. This team has to compete like a real contender. If you want to follow every inside move with me, subscribe to 49ers Express and come back for the next video.